Around a year ago, I created a video about documents that you should bring with you to your green card interview when it's based on marriage to a US citizen. You guys gave me a lot of positive feedback, and in your comments, you said that you wanted to see more similar videos. So today I'm creating an updated video where I go through additional evidence that you should bring with you to your green card interview. If you're new to my channel, I'm Puyandarian. I focus on immigration law, and I put out a video on new immigration topics every week. So you're married to a US citizen, and you're going through the immigration process, and you're wondering, what documents do I need to bring to the green card interview? How do I satisfy the immigration officer and bring the mandatory documents and additional documents that will help make the process smoother? That's what today we're going to be discussing. So the first set of documents you want to bring are the documents on your interview appointment list. So immigration is going to send you an interview letter saying you need to bring these documents with you to your interview. And it's pretty much going to be all of your original documents, which include your birth certificate, spouse's birth certificate or proof of US citizenship, marriage certificate, and any other original documents you might have. If you've been previously divorced, you'll also need to bring original divorce certificates. Now, in addition to these original documents, you also need to bring your medical exam if you haven't already submitted a medical exam with your green card application. In other videos, I've discussed how you can submit it in the beginning with your green card paperwork, or you can just bring it with you down the road when you attend your green card interview. Either way, one way or another, you need to submit it, and it needs to be less than 2 years old on the date you submit it. Aside from these original mandatory documents, there are many things that you should also bring that could help the immigration officer believe that you're in a good faith marriage. These are likely things that you already have, that your marriage has already produced. And what I like to tell a lot of my clients is, don't change your behaviors or the way you live your lives. Just be sure to document the way you live your lives. Because if you're in a good faith marriage, the evidence will be there. It's just whether or not you're collecting it and saving it. So today we're going to be discussing a lot of those additional pieces of evidence that could help you. The first piece of evidence that you should bring if you have it, and that applies for all of these. You may not have many of these, but you might have some of them. Every marriage is different, so bring any evidence that makes it more likely that you and your spouse are in a good faith marriage. Evidence of property. So if you guys bought a house together, or if you bought a car together and both of your names are on the title, you should bring evidence of that. Along with evidence of buying a house together, any evidence whatsoever that shows you guys are living together, cohabitating, is very strong evidence that suggests you're in a good faith marriage. What does that mean? So it could be a lease, it could even be driver's licenses that you both have listing you live at the same address. Joint pieces of mail are also very helpful. So save anything that could suggest that you guys live at the same address. If it's towards the end of the year and you guys are receiving holiday cards or wedding invitations from friends and family addressed to both of you, save those documents and just throw them in a box. Bring them with you to your green card interview. They'll be very helpful. Think about it from an immigration officer's perspective. If you're in a fake marriage just for a green card, are people in the community going to be sending you and your fake spouse wedding invitations to attend their wedding? It doesn't really make sense. So it's a good piece of unique evidence that really suggests you're in a good faith marriage. By the way, if you do actually get a wedding invitation and you attend that wedding with your spouse, bring some photographs from that event. Any group photographs are great pieces of evidence because from an immigration officer's perspective, it shows you guys interacting in a group setting, and it's easy questions for the immigration officer to ask you and easy answers and things for you to talk about during your green card interview. Other evidence that could really help you out at your green card interview is evidence of financial commingling. So not every married couple likes to have a joint bank account, But if you do have a joint bank account, be sure to bring your bank statements. And one word of caution on this, I know a lot of people think that having a joint bank account is bulletproof evidence that you're in a good faith marriage. That's not true. If you have a bank account that you guys aren't really using, sometimes I'll tell my clients, don't even bring that. If you just opened that bank account a year ago and it has 0 transaction history, I think it will do more harm than good. Focus on other things that you're actually using day to day in your marriage. Joint credit cards are also another helpful thing. I really suggest being familiar with the transaction history, because if you bring credit card statements to your interview, these are easy questions for the immigration officer to ask you. Like, hey, are you familiar with your marriage's spending? If you say you're familiar with your credit card spending, now it's fair game for that immigration officer to ask you about specific expenses on that credit card bill. So just be aware that you can bring all of these documents, and I would recommend it if they're a natural product of your marriage, but expect some questions. They could very well come from an immigration officer who's honing in on your statements. Another piece of evidence is joint family plan. Let's say you have a joint cell phone bill, family plan. You should bring your phone statements with you to the green card interview. So a few other things that could really make the difference between a weak case and a strong case are joint utilities, if you have joint utilities, joint insurance, health insurance, car insurance, life insurance, whatever you have, bring it with you. If you have pets together, that's a big one. Let's say you adopted a pet and both your names are on the adoption certificate. Bring evidence of that. Even if you didn't both put your names on the adoption certificate, which in my experience, only one spouse typically adopts the pet and then they both take care of it. Take some pictures with your pets. These are easy questions. The officer can ask you who feeds your cat, what's your cat's name. Easy questions, easy answers. Great evidence for an immigration interview. Evidence of kids. If you guys have kids together, bring their birth certificates. If they're older or stepkids, they were one spouse's kids and now they're your stepkid, and you've put your name on their school records, bring evidence that your name is on their school records. If your child's really young and you just had a baptism, bring their baptism records. It's evidence of your marriage, and it's very strong evidence for an immigration interview. If you filed your taxes jointly, you should bring evidence of your joint tax filings for every year in which you filed jointly. It's great evidence for the immigration officer to consider. Another thing is if you have designated your spouse as an emergency contact. Let's say you went to the hospital or you signed up for martial arts or whatever, and they asked you for emergency contact info in the event that you're incapacitated or injured. You should bring evidence of that to your interview. It's great evidence, and it kind of sets your case apart from other people. That's true also for healthcare proxy documents. A lot of people have these documents. If you do, bring them with you. Oh, and I almost forgot. Evidence of trips. If you guys have ever taken a trip together, for example, you took a domestic flight somewhere, or even drove somewhere and stayed at an Airbnb or hotel, there could be a ton of evidence just from a 3-day trip together. There can be a flight confirmation email, hotel confirmation emails, Airbnb printouts or screenshots, receipts from that trip, photographs from that trip, whatever you did. If you went to Disney World, there could be tickets for you to print out. And this is great evidence to set your case apart from other people's cases. And it's also an easy thing for the immigration officer to ask you about, and easy things for you guys to talk about to build rapport during your interview. By the way, guys, before I finish this video, I just want to say, don't create any evidence that is not a natural part of your relationship. I see people do this all the time, and it's a huge mistake, and it creates a lot of tension during the interview. Best case scenario and worst case scenario, it makes it look like you're in a fake marriage. A couple specific things to look out for is don't create new bank accounts right before you go to your interview. Anything you do within a few months of your interview is going to be viewed with suspicion. Now, if you have a real reason, like your child was just born before the interview and you wanted to create an account for your child and both parents are on it, that's different. But if you're just creating a savings account for the first time in your marriage right before your interview, I wouldn't even bother bringing evidence of that. Or if you do bring it with you and you submit it to the officer, tell them that this isn't really evidence of our marriage, it's just something we brought with us, just in case you wanted to see it, because it's not really strong evidence. Now, with this video, I always open the floor up to comments. If you have questions about what evidence to bring to your green card interview, put them in the comments below. If there are other topics you want me to discuss in future videos, again, put them in the comments below. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up so I know to make future videos on similar topics. And as always, I'll see you guys next week for another video.